How's it going, Yankee fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Ryan Garcia, coming off another disappointing loss yesterday. Of course, the Yankees have only scored one run in the last 3 games and 4 runs in the last 4 games. But, they're bringing in some guys from the AAA Scranton squad. We're bringing some fresh blood in, bringing some young guys who are absolutely crushing. We all love Ron Marinaccio. We know how good he's been this year for the top team. And now you're looking at Estevan Florial and Oswaldo Cabrera being pulled up. We want to talk about both of those guys, the impact they can make, specifically Cabrera, who we have not seen at the major league level yet. So we don't entirely know what he's going to provide, but decent infielder. We can play second base at an adequate level with DJ LeMahieu day to day, Gleyber Torres, going through a little bit of a cold streak. We'll see where they kind of use him. Maybe they use him in the DH spot. There's a multitude of different ways. They have Estevan Florial, who I guess you could say will be taking some of the workload away from Aaron Hicks, who seems to be lost playing outfield these days. He cannot hit. He cannot field. The guy is just all over the place, polarizing play. And at this point, the Yankees needed to make a change and inject some new blood into the lineup here to try and just find a spark from somewhere, because they can't continue to roll with what they've got right now. It's just not good enough, and you may as well test out some of your young guys and see what they can do. But Ryan, before we dive into some of the metrics, statistics, and what Oswaldo Cabrera and Estevan Florial are bringing from AAA, how you do today, my friend?
I could not be doing any better. I've been calling for this on this podcast, on Twitter, on anything I think I've written in the last week and a half has had some mention of bringing up Oswaldo Cabrera or Peraza. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that the Yankees are going to get guaranteed great production from Oswaldo Cabrera, but it's a good decision, and the Yankees are putting themselves in a position that they're going to get some upside here if Cabrera does have a lot of his offensive tools carried to the major league level. And I think his median, that average outcome for him, is still better than the at-bats they're getting from guys like Kiner Falefa or Donaldson, or definitely Andujar, Marwin Gonzalez. I mean, these are guys. I'm not saying the Yankees are, in desperate need of help come October for the offensive guys come back the way they should. But right now, the Yankees are playing horrible baseball, and they're losing by really slim margin. The Yankees are 5-22 in games decided by 3 or fewer runs, which is the worst stretch by any team in franchise history since the Highlanders in 1908 and 1912. So before the Yankees were even the Yankees, that's how long ago we have to look to find a team as bad in these close games and in any stretch during a season. The Yankees need that little spark. They need that extra run to cross the plate. They need someone who can have a good at bat to come up with runners in scoring position. And if you look at what Cabrera does so well, it's his bat, right? The dude's got, he's just solid all around. He's got good enough contact skills. The strikeout rates aren't a huge problem for him. He's got great power, 500 slugging percentage this year at AAA. The on base is strong at 343. He steals bases at a decent clip. He's got great speed. The Yankees are going to definitely run him on the bases a little bit more. That helps you. That's upgrade automatically from a guy like Donaldson, who when he gets on, he's a zero, if not a net. He's a net negative on the base paths. He's a horrific base runner. If you look at just the switch hitting abilities too, and the fact that he puts the ball in the air so much, he's going to hit a lot of home runs for this team. If he finds his swing. And I think that's important to bring up because Scranton actually has a deeper ballpark down the lines, 330 in right field, 330 in left field. Yankee Stadium, 314 in right field, 318 in left field. And Cabrera's a big pull guy. So you look at, him as a lefty or him as a righty, if he can, get to pulling those fly balls, you're going to see him get a couple extra cheap, I hate to say cheap, but, that's kind of what they are. Those, Yankee Stadium, only Yankee Stadium can have some of these home runs. And it's what makes me excited about Cabrera. The power output could be massive if he does find his swing and he gets, he's been red hot in August. He's hitting over 400. This is the guy who could give you an immediate spark to your lineup. And if he does slow down at September a little bit, you have other guys coming back. You really just need Cabrera to keep up his hot play from AAA and hope that you get that little bit of a spark just to get you through this point in time. Stanton is starting rehab games this week. You hope to have him back next week. September's almost coming around, so I imagine Bader's going to be starting rehab games at some point. LeMahieu as he comes back into the lineup, Carpenter as he comes back into the lineup, in mid to late September. September's a long month. The Yankees just need to scratch a win against the Rays tonight, because if they do, they put themselves, I believe, 9 or 10 games up in the division again. And you know what? It's not great to lose a series, but I'll take 10 games up in the division with 45 to go and only 5 games left against the Rays to play. in comparison to 6 games left. In comparison to 6 more games to play, 5 more games to play with a 7-6 game advantage in the loss column. That's a little too scary for me. So Cabrera hopefully can give you that spark you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cabrera is that good of a player at the AAA level that it's worth to give him a chance. I mean, he hasn't been doing it at the AAA level as long as Peraza has this year, but he came back from that injury, came back from that issue. And in July, he's hit 303 with a 405 on base percentage, 682 slugging, 7 homers and 17 RBIs and 9 stolen bases in 18 games. Like 7 homers in 18 games is unbelievable. This month in August, he's hitting even better. The home runs are down, but he's getting on base at 43%, hitting 378 with a 556 slugging percentage and 987 OPS, 1 homer, 9 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and 4 walks in 12 games. So, like, he is showing very good metrics. Then you look at his 2 outs and runners in scoring position. He's hitting 242 with a 36% on base rate, 515 slugging. Has a home run and 13 RBI. So he has come up into big moments as well there too. This is a guy who deserved an opportunity. Like, just that's as blatant and straight up as it is. With the injuries hitting the Yankees right now, with DJ's issue, with Gleyber Torres struggling, with Josh Donaldson basically an automatic out most days, like, and he can't offer you any athleticism on the base pass. Oswaldo Cabrera, like, while I thought Peraza might have been the guy they called up first, I'm not surprised that it's Cabrera now, seeing that how, unbelievable he's been at the minor league level. They need a spark. He's got a ton of power. He's a switch hitter, by the way, right? So it's like, you can actually use him in that sense. That's probably maybe what they're trying to replicate in Aaron Hicks, because they're losing that switch hitting bat by maybe moving him to the bench with Florial getting more reps in center field. But at the same time, like, Cabrera's not really that great of a righty hitter. He's better from the left side of the plate, which is good for the Yankees because you have that short right porch in Yankee Stadium, and you want to take advantage of that. And Cabrera can do that. So, like, I'm very, very optimistic in the sense that, like, against right-handed pitchers, as a left-handed batter, he's hitting 284 with a 38% on base rate. He's hitting most of his homers, 7 homers, 25 RBIs in that sense. So as versus left-handed pitches as a right-handed batter, he's hitting 238 with a 27% on base rate. So as a lefty, you're imagining you're going to come across lefty or right-handed pitches more often than lefty, obviously. So you're looking at those numbers as your predominant ones, and he's been tremendous in that facet. So as the switch hitter, I'll ask you this: do you think that they'll use him as a switch hitter? Like, they'll probably try to put him up against righty batters, righty pitchers, obviously, but do you think they'll keep him in there against lefty pitchers too? Like, if you have a lefty starter, I don't really think we'll see him in the lineup.
Yeah, I wonder how they manage that, just because you have Donaldson, who's had success against left-handed pitching. Gleyber's obviously killed left-handed pitching, and I imagine kind of Flefa stays a regular in the lineup, even with Cabrera here, though I do think Cabrera is going to put a little bit of a challenge on all 3 of those guys to kind of, hey, you guys got to step it up because your job's up next, right? I think when you look at Florial being called up, that's very obviously them saying, hey, Hicks, we're not happy with what you're doing right now. We're not, this isn't good enough for us. We need to bring up Florial. We need to challenge your job right now. But for Cabrera, I definitely do think that you'll see him primarily against righties. I'm not saying you will never see him face a lefty, but I don't think they're going to actively start him against lefties as often. But we'll see. Maybe they think that they can find something with his right-handed swing. He's someone who is still relatively new in the sense that he didn't really break out until June of last year. He had a really bad start to the season last year in Double-A, and then just went on a torrid pace. So, we don't know enough about him in terms of like long-term. We've known about Florial's issues for a while. We know what he does well, what he doesn't do well, because he's been in the system for so long. We've tracked his play for a very long time. Cabrera, it's, kind of he just exploded onto the scene. He literally just one day in June woke up and decided, hey, I'm going to hit 30 home runs. So, for Cabrera, it's going to be interesting to see how they deploy him. I think, it'll be interesting to see whose job he's going to be vying for. It'll be interesting to see, he's a really good defensive second baseman. He grades out decently at shortstop, and at third base, he can play it, but I don't know if the arm is great enough to play third base consistently. But with LeMahieu coming back, you could always put him at third if Donaldson isn't hitting well. It's going to be interesting to see whose job he vies for, and it's going to be interesting to see, where he hits in the lineup. And if he stays red hot, I mean, could you imagine going from a net negative at third base or whatever you've gotten from Kiner Falefa on the season offensively at shortstop to a guy who could potentially give you, 105, 110 OPS plus type production? I mean, that's That's really good. That's like, considering what we've gotten, when you put it into context, that's really, really, really damn good. And you can try, if you have somehow an infield where you have a Cabrera giving you a 105, 110 OPS plus, LeMahieu giving you what he's been giving you this year, and Glaber, he's got 2 straight nights with hits. Maybe that helps him turn it around. And Rizzo at first base, I mean, that infield is deadly. But of course, I want fans to kind of temper their expectations. I don't want them to think Cabrera is going to necessarily have to come out of the gate being an elite player for him to warrant being called up. The Yankees are doing it to give guys, a little more pressure. If he doesn't hit, it'll be unfortunate, but this just happens with rookies sometimes. This is his first stint at the major league level. He just turned 23. He's not turning 24 until next year. And, I want people to temper their expectations a little bit. I think if you get average offensive production, you're happy with it because the defensive value is going to be there and the base running value will be there. And that's a great outcome for Cabrera. Steamer projects him to be a league average hitter. If he hits above that, if you click into some higher percentile outcome here, you take it. But if he's not great, don't just label him a bust if the Yankees didn't make a good decision in calling him up. It just didn't work out, and they're going to have to wait a little bit on Cabrera. Thankfully, that if we reach that point, at that point in time, you imagine you have Stanton and DJ back. So, there's that. But I think the upside is at least better than watching freaking Miguel Andujar. So, I'm excited to watch him play, but I don't want people to overreact either way. If he comes out and he's firing off the gates, that doesn't mean, he's going to be the best player ever. If he comes out of the gates and he's slow, it doesn't mean he's a bust. So, just kind of temper your expectations, be patient with the kid. If he doesn't hit right out the gate, it's okay. You're not worried about, you don't have to deem him a bust long term. You just don't want to fit him on the roster right now. That's fine. Whatever. You're going to get guys back. This is just a move to put pressure on guys to play. This isn't a move to save your season, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a move to give you some time to get some of these guys healthy. And like, I understand that, but at the same time, like these guys are not hitting. Some of the players on the Yankees are not hitting. So Florial, at the very least, can offer you probably better defense right now in center field than Aaron Hicks. The last couple weeks have just been really bad. And he's got athleticism, man. He can steal bases, right? Like that's another thing. On the base pass, Florial's dangerous. He can turn a single into a double. He can turn, a single from, if he's on base, he's on second base, he can score from a single pretty easily. It's 32 stolen bases with Scranton this year. And while stealing bases at the minor league level can be a lot easier, he does showcase that speed and athleticism pretty regular with 126 WRC plus at the level. But I will say this, that strikeout rate is a little bit concerning to me. 31% strikeout rate in minors. That's going to elevate at the major league level. Always has with him. So, excuse me, if he can hover around the 30% rates, I would be happy. But anything more than 33, 34%, which is what I'm anticipating, it definitely would be a little bit tough. But I don't think he'll be an everyday player. I think they'll kind of interchange him and Hicks as we move forward here. Try to get Hicks at bats just to get him out of this cold streak right now. But they have to make some sort of change, some sort of swap. And, getting some of the young guys in there is always a good way to test, the resiliency of your veteran players and put them on the spot. This is ultimately Boone and the management saying to Aaron Hicks, you got to step your shit up because otherwise we will replace you. We will put another guy in your spot. And I think Hicks needs to rise to the occasion. And, sometimes competition is all, so these professional players need just a little bit of a push and say, like, my job isn't safe right now. Like, I need to play better. So hopefully that can spark a little bit more production for Hicks, and maybe Florial can come in and give you a lot of value as a defender and maybe get on base and do some good stuff there. So we're hoping for the best, my friends, but would love to hear your perspectives below in the YouTube comments about the call-ups of Oswaldo Cabrera, Estevan Florial, and Ron Marinaccio, who is absolutely going to be dominant, especially with Clay Holmes potentially heading to the injured list. We will need Marinaccio to be there and healthy and ready to go. So that's another guy who obviously will make a significant impact as we move forward here. But guys, really appreciate the love and support. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.